Alrighty, hi guys, how's it going? It's me. It is pretty late. It's 12:30 in the morning on Sunday. We are streaming. We're doing winter to spring listing strategy. Client wants to build a duplex and CMA review. Watch here, paste, submit. Alright, so that's these three things here. CMA review, clients want to build a duplex, and winter to spring listing strategy. So yeah, let's start with the top one here. I had an Atova agent text me. I think it was Friday or Saturday, and they said that they had a listing that was coming up, and it's been on the market for a couple months, and they had 5 showings. But the seller is getting discouraged, and the Atova agent is concerned that when the listing expires after the holidays, that if the home hasn't sold, that the seller is going to want to hire somebody else, and will let the listing expire and relist with somebody else, and will lose the listing. And so the Atova agent asked me if I had any ideas on what to do. And then the inquiry from the agent was very timely, because the timing of the year is very unique. It's very interesting. And this really applies to everybody, which is why I wanted to make it a topic here. So if you have a listing that is set to expire anytime between now and the next 45 to 60 days, so anytime from now through the end of January, maybe even into February a little bit. So if you have a listing that's going to expire between now and January, February, give or take, one thing that you really might want to do is, I don't want to say that it's a game. I suppose it's a strategy. So, hence the word strategy here. But there is a little bit of gamesmanship, a little bit of psychology that comes into play. So, what I would recommend that you do, if you have a listing that expires between now and January, February, is you might want to consider engaging the seller now, and suggesting that you take the home off the market now, or let's say December 15th. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I would like to suggest that we take the home off the market from December 15th through January 15th. And there's a couple reasons that I would suggest that. One is the week leading up to Christmas, and the week between Christmas and New Year's, and even the first week of the year. These are the slowest time. This is the slowest time of the year to be selling a home. So this is when we're going to have, out of all the entire year, this is the 2-3 week period where we're going to have the fewest showings. Now, given that that's the case, one thing that we might want to consider from a strategy standpoint is, if we take the home off the market for 30 days from, let's say, the December 15th to January 15th, then when we go back on the market on January 16th, we come back on the market as a brand new listing, and with 0 days on market in the MLS listing. And so it looks like we're new on the market. And so as we get into February and the beginning of March, when things really start to pick up, it'll look like the listing is 30, 45 days fresh. That we came on the market at the end of winter. Now we're headed into spring, and so it will look like a fresh listing. If we stay on the market December 15th through January 15th, if we just stay on the market through the whole winter, then come February or March, when things really start to pick back up, the MLS listing will show that we've been on the market for 75 days or 90 days. And whenever you have that length of time on market, it's always something that works against you a little bit, because buyers, and probably more important, their agents, tend to think that, oh, well, hey, if the home hasn't sold by now, there must be something not good about it. Therefore, I have this buyer that wants to see 10 houses. Let me show them the 9 that are fresher on the market, and I'll show them this one that's been on the market for 90 days. I'll show that last because there's probably something wrong with it. And so you get into this, it's almost this self-fulfilling prophecy of not selling just because we've been on the market for so long. So, in any case, to say that all a little bit more briefly, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, one strategy I would suggest that we consider would be to take the home off the market from December 15th to January 15th. If we do that, then on January 16th, we can come back on the market, and we will have 0 days on market. The listing will look fresh. If we stay on the market between now and then come February, March, when the market starts to pick back up, our listing is going to show 90 days on the market, 100 days on the market, and the listing is going to feel a little bit stale. You don't want that going into spring. Given that this time now, the week leading up to Christmas, and the week between Christmas and New Year's, and even the week, the first week of the year, these are the slowest showing times of the year. And so I would suggest that we go off the market. You guys can enjoy your holiday season without having to worry about showings and whatnot. And then we can come on the market fresh in the spring. And that can really help with our showing volume in the spring, because the listing will feel fresh, it won't feel stale. What are your thoughts about that? And then you talk to the seller and work it through with them, and then go from there. Once you get them on board with the general concept, and the reason this is all worthwhile is it's not the benefit that we've discussed is one of the real benefits. You are a fresh listing in the spring as opposed to a stale listing. That is a very real and very tangible benefit. There's actual value that is captured there, because it is true. Agents and buyers will tend to marginalize listings that appear to have been on the market for a long time, and they'll give their focus originally to fresher listings. So that's one point of value. The other point of value is that this gives you an opportunity to, this is where the strategy comes in, and where where our angle is that it enables you to do an addendum. So we can do an addendum to, once you get the seller on board with the plan, once the seller agrees, yeah, that sounds like a good plan, let's do that. Okay, great, let me send you over an addendum. So now we draft an addendum, and it's a regular RE11 addendum. I think it's the RE11. I've never been good with the numbers. Let's look. Resources, contract forms, 11. So you'll do a regular addendum, but here, instead of checking that this is an addendum to the purchase and sale agreement, you'll check here, other, and then in this blank right here, you'll put seller representation agreement / residential data form. So check other, seller representation agreement slash residential data form. And then you fill out this section here, and then in the body you will have two things. The first thing you'll say is, well, I guess you could say it together: seller representation, um, seller representation period, and listing, and MLS listing. Seller representation period and MLS listing to be extended until June 15th, 2019. Period. And that's it. So when you do that, you send it over to the seller. Oh, excuse me. The first item, that's what it is. The first item will say property to be removed from the MLS from December 15th to January 15th. So property to be removed from the MLS or canceled. Property to be canceled from the MLS from December 15th, 2018 until January 15th, 2019. Period. The second item will say home to be relisted on January 16th, 2019, period. And then continuing on with the same item number, seller representation agreement and MLS listing to be extended until June 15th, 2019, period. And then you send that over to the seller. So what you're doing is once you get them on board with the plan, because we're coming off the market for a month, well, then we come back on the market, we are going to be relisting, and we're going to need a little bit more time because we've been off the market. So we're kind of trading this bad time on the market for future time on the market, and then obviously extending it a little bit. So we're using this. We're using our the opportunity as we're executing this strategy to extend our listing period a little bit longer. So you don't just. I suppose you can if you want, but if you're coming off the market for a month, I wouldn't just extend your seller rep and your MLS listing by a month. You can use this opportunity to try and get a little bit longer, right? So maybe 2 months or 2.5 months or whatever you think you can get your seller client to sign up for. We're coming off the market now, and we'll come back on January 16th, and we'll stay listed through the spring, is essentially what you're saying. Now, you don't need to, and I wouldn't necessarily suggest that you cover that in advance with your client. Don't ask them, so you're going to certainly give them an opportunity to, you're not forcing anything on them, but the way that you are exposing them to this is kind of in this sequence, kind of the kind of giving them little bite-sized pieces. So the first piece is getting them on board with the strategy. Coming off the market for a month, go back on the market as a brand new listing. Does that sound good? That sounds good? Okay, great. I'll get you over the paperwork. Then you send over the paperwork, and it does exactly as you described. But then it also, because we're off the market for the month, it's expanding the time, but we're expanding it by more than the month. We're expanding it by 2 months or 2.5 months, and it's not a, it's an innocuous thing. It's just it's just a logical thing. When we come back on the market on January 15th, we would expect that it will take 2 or 3 months to potentially get the home sold, given that we're coming into this market that's going to be increasing as the spring approaches. So when we go back on the market on January 16th, it doesn't make sense to just go through February 15th because the market is still gaining ground. So the reason that I went ahead and put the listing out through June 15th is because that gives us um, the last 2 weeks of January, which are typically slow, February, which is beginning to ramp up, and then March. March and April are the springtime months. That's where we get a lot of buyers begin to re-enter the market, and things really start to pick up. So I went ahead and extended it through June 15th just to give us the best opportunity to get the home sold. And if they have a problem with that, then you can negotiate, right? You could say, oh, if you're not comfortable with June 15th, I'm happy to pare it back to, the end of May, or, whatever you're comfortable with. I just want to have a decent opportunity to get that home sold through the beginning of spring. And so you talk it through, negotiate it, adjust your addendum if you need, but in this way you're getting more time. So, in conclusion, on this particular category, the winter to spring listing strategy, in conclusion, it's um, if you have a listing that's going to expire, you can employ this strategy to essentially get a fresh listing and buy yourself more time. But the key is that the time to have these conversations is this week, right? This is the week. We're December 10th, so we've got, we're right there, right? So this is the week to have that conversation. So the Atova agent's inquiry to me on Friday or Saturday was very timely because it enables me to have this conversation with everybody. All right, so that's that. We have a client or a customer or a client that wants to build a duplex. So an Atova agent texted me earlier today and said that they have a client that wants to build a duplex. And so the problem with that is they don't want a duplex. So we can do active. I know they said Ada County. So she said Ada County in her text. So active Ada County. Is duplex in here? No. Where is duplex? Let's see. Type. It's in multifamily residential, actually, is what it is. So search residential income, and then active, and Ada County, and now we have duplex. Okay, duplex. So we have 6 duplexes that are active in Ada County right now, but they don't want to buy an existing duplex. That's a duplex in the bench. That's another duplex in the bench. Another duplex in the bench. A West Boise duplex. A North Boise duplex on Hill Road. A North Boise duplex. All right, so one of the challenges with building a duplex is that you have lot identification issues, right? So I want to build a duplex. Okay, great. Well, you need to find a lot to be able to do that. Challenge, most lots in subdivisions are the approved plat for the subdivision is for single family homes. And so you can't just buy a lot that's been platted for a single family home and say, I'm going to build a duplex here. It doesn't work that way. You can't do it. So you're only able to put a duplex on a lot that has been approved for a duplex. So if you have a neighborhood that's being developed and the developer has designated 90% of the development to be single family homes, and then 10% of the development to be, or let's say 5% of the development to be townhomes, and then the remaining 5% of the development to be duplexes. Townhomes and duplexes are to an extent, um, the same, or they can be the same, right? So a townhome could be a building that has, 4 units in it, and so it's one structure with 4 dwellings, um, and they're all townhomes. But you could have one structure with 2 dwellings, and they are townhomes as well. But that also meets the definition of duplex. So, what's the difference between a townhome that has 2 units and a duplex? And the answer to that question is legal description. So, townhomes are going to have, each unit is going to have its own legal description. So let's take a look here really quick at type townhome. And so with a townhouse, you'll often see each individual unit will sell on its own, where with a condo, with a duplex, they're sold together. So one thing that we might be able to tell our client, so our client wants to build a duplex. What we might tell them is it's going to be difficult to find a lot to build a duplex. Um, but why not, if possible? So I'm going to look through these really quick. It might be easier to find a lot that's been approved for a townhome. See, that's the problem though with townhomes is that that's what I was getting with the development. So if you have a development where it's 80% houses and let's say 90% houses and 10% townhomes, um, the problem is the that usually is not going to be a situation where where the developer um, sells lots and there's all these like different hodgepodge townhomes because one person built this type of townhome or duplex and another person built this kind and they had a builder and he built 3 of these. It's usually not like that in a residential development. Typically, what's going to happen is the that segment of the subdivision, the townhome um, portion of that subdivision, is going to all be built by one builder, and that way you have uniformity of presentation. And right, it feels like a community because all the townhomes have the same architecture and design, and so there's this continuity. So if you have a client that wants to build a duplex or a townhome building with 2 units, you're going to have a hard time um, trying to find a lot if your goal is to build something custom for yourself, right? So if you want to have control over how many bedrooms and bathrooms and what it looks like and whatnot, you're not going to be able to go to a developer who has a development and say, hey, can I buy one of your duplex lots or one of your townhome lots because I want to build my own thing? That developer is going to say, no, I've got ABC construction company building all the townhomes so that they're uniform. And so they're going to send us on our way. So whether we're looking for a duplex or whether we're willing to do a townhome, I think really we're going to be relegated to lots that are not part of a subdivision. We'll be looking for lots that are, just undeveloped infill lots that are in an area where the municipality would allow a duplex or a 2 unit townhome structure to be developed. And honestly, if I had a client that was looking to do a duplex, I would say, why build a duplex when you can build a 2 unit townhome? You have more flexibility, right? So you build a duplex, yeah, it's great. You can live in one half and you can rent out the other. But when it's time to sell, you've got to sell the building together. It's one unit. But build a townhome, they're separately titled, and if you wanted to, you could sell off half and keep the other half. There's more flexibility not only for you, but for future owners as well. And more flexibility generally translates into more value. So if we can find a lot where we have the ability, yeah, so here you go right here. This is a great example. This is a townhouse on the bench, 6313 Morris Hill, and then we have 6233 Morris Hill. This is the other side of it, clearly, right? So this is the right side of it, and this is the left side of it, or at least it appears to be that way. That's what you get from having a townhouse instead of a duplex. So let's keep looking here. See, these are just half. Just getting to feel briefly what's out there. That's an eagle one. That's a star. The bench. Back to eagle. I'm also curious to look at reports, spreadsheet, days on market. So we have everything from 263 down to just a few days on market, with the mean being somewhere in this 40 territory. I've always felt that townhomes take longer to sell than single family homes. There's just a larger buyer pool for single family homes. So I was just curious here on the days on market. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to look for search land, and we're going to look for active land in Ada County, and we're going to look for lot size doesn't really matter. We know that we're not buying huge acreage, so we could just do a half an acre. 149 active lot listings under a half an acre in Ada County, and we could do a remark search for the word townhome, and I don't think necessarily we're going to get lucky with that. Yeah, so there's 0 for townhome, and let's try duplex. 0 for duplex. Let's try condo. We have 1 for condo. Let's see what we got here. North Boise, rare find. Development lots near the new Boise Whitewater District, Zone C2D, condo townhomes, 2 words. Single family commercial, blah, blah, blah. So this would be a parcel here. This is a good example because it's just, infill. There's the lot right there. It's at 30th and Davis, it appears. Yep, 30th and Davis. And 30th and Davis, Boise. We'll go to satellite view. So there's Whitewater. So it's on that side, more towards, because you have a lot of residential stuff happening in here now too. So, and it's just pretty much straight shot. It's pretty good. All right, so there's an option. This one right here. 987-12098. That's really like what we're talking about looking for, is lots like that. So we can get rid of condo here, and then we'll go just hit search, and let's flip through some of these and see what they look like. Okay, there are 6 lots available. Southwest Meridian, Yeah, so these are going to all be platted for single family homes. And that's a commercial lot. Manufactured home with foundation. So this very well might be a candidate too. Um, it's in star, but you can see that there's no CC&Rs, so it's just and they're talking about putting a manufactured home on it. So generally, if you can put if there's flexibility enough to put a manufactured home on it, there's probably flexibility to put a duplex or a townhome on it. So same thing here, Milwaukee and Fairview. This is 8109 King Street. So mapping them is important. So when you map them and you go to satellite view, you get a feel for what's around it. And what's around it is really going to drive things too. So if you have a mix of other types of properties or even other, duplexes in the area, you'll obviously have a much greater chance. And so you have like commercial over here. This is back, behind off of Fairview. Then we'll go down into street view here. Take a look at, what's going on. So it's this lot right there, I think. You have a house next door. Yeah, I mean, I bet you anything that you could probably get a townhome or a duplex approved on that lot. Assuming that it meets setbacks and there's enough space to do what you want to do. Another infill lot located in West Boise. So we've got check this one. Go back to satellite here. Where is the lot? Did it not map it? I don't see my Settlers Avenue. It doesn't. It probably doesn't know where it is. Fairview north on Cole, west on Settlers Avenue. Cole, Settlers. So it's somewhere in here. Just looking for where it could be. If it's on Settlers, maybe this. Now there's a driveway there. Do they have anything in the photos here? An aerial, maybe? Okay, so a dead end. It's only, what size is it? 0.12. Is it just this little strip or something? Like just this piece? That would be kind of ridiculous, but that's possible. That might be worth a phone call to the title company, see what's up. Northwest Boise, Gardner Lane, ability to split, no city water. Have to pay for water. Irrigation is possible. R1C. We have to go check the code on R1C, but that R1 is probably houses. But something you could research. Behind the village at Meridian. Individual well and septic. So again, this sounds like an infill lot. Certainly possibility here for a townhome. And there's no way that you're going to know. One of the things that you'll have to do is, I think the first the first step would be to identify kind of how we're doing here, lots that we think might fit the bill. So if it's in like this one, where it's in, what is this, Clarkstone? Can't tell what that says. Creekstone. So it's a lot in Creekstone. So this is a Northwest Meridian subdivision. You can see here it's a patio home sub. So any lot like this in a development, it's the lot usage is going to be specific and already approved by the municipality. So you're not going to be able to get a townhome or a duplex built on a lot that's been designated for residential. So we skip that. We don't use that one. Here we're looking at this is in Legacy. Again, we're not going to be able to build a duplex on a single family residential lot in Legacy. So those are all Legacy. This one is possible candidate on Jackie Lane. Let's take a look at it on the satellite, see what we're dealing with here. Okay, there's the street view. Okay, and where are we in town? There's U-Stick and Maple Grove. And so coming in here, this lot here, back here, it looks like a flag lot. And so it looks like we have like a duplex thing right here, or a townhome. And so, given that we've got one, that it appears that we have one here, very possible that we might be able to build one right behind it. Let's see if we can't see anything better here. We go to 3D. Yeah, so we have two garages, two entrances. This is a townhome or a duplex, and then boom, there we go, right behind it. That would have a high probability of being approved. So that is one that I would share with the client. So using this format, I would identify potential lots and I would eliminate others. Of the potentials that remain, I would send them to the client and I would tell the client, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I've identified some lots that that you may be able to build a duplex or a townhome on. I would need to do additional due diligence to confirm that, but these are potential candidates. If you can look through these and let me know which are of interest, look at where they are in the map and see if you like the area, and maybe go drive the area. And if you can tell me which of these you are interested in possibly pursuing, then I can go do some preliminary due diligence on those selections to determine which would be possible candidates for duplexes or short sales, and which would where that probably wouldn't be okay. And the way that I'll accomplish that is I'll go to the city or I'll go to the county and I'll make an inquiry. So I'll do some more due diligence on your behalf. So step one, you put all the available lots into two buckets, maybes and no's. You give the maybes to your client. You ask them to tell you which ones they are interested in. Then step three, so step one is put them in buckets. Step two is give the ones that are possibles to your client. Step three is they tell you which ones of those they're interested in. Step four is you contact planning and zoning at the city or county level, depending upon whether it's in the city or county, and you just make a basic inquiry. Would it be possible to put a 2-unit townhome or a duplex on this lot? Um, and they'll tell you right on the spot, yes, you can do that, or no, you can't do that, or that's possible, but you would have to go through these steps first. And once you have those answers for the properties that your client expressed interest in, you go back to the client and say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Client, these properties were no's. The municipality said that you could only do single family homes on those. Um, and then these were yeses. They said, yep, that is an acceptable use. And then these ones here, they said that we'd have to apply for, a rezone or get a conditional use permit or whatever hoops they want you to jump through. So no, yes, and maybe if you jump through some hoops. So you share with the client that information, and then you proceed accordingly from there. All right, so that is some info on the duplex front. And then lastly, let's take a look here at this CMA. I've changed the address here just as a courtesy to the agent that provided this to me. And really what I'm looking here for is any type of layout errors. So we do have an error here where I doubt, I suppose it's possible, that they all sold in 0 days on market. Let's take a look. Search residential, and let's get rid of the townhouse in Ada County. Well, let's pay 3002 Tubac. Don't need it to be active. Search. Okay, so these are new properties. And the subject property is new construction. So these are probably 0 days on market because they're pre-solds, right? So I'll spot check one more here. Actually, I know this to be okay because I think these are all in that subdivision. I'm not sure about this one. Let's try this one. 72 Heston. 72 Heston. 72 Heston. Get rid of active again. Search. Yep, okay, we're good. So 0 days on market is fine there. Okay, so looks good. We do have one with a W with a period here, and the others don't have periods, so let's get rid of that period to keep it consistent. And then there, and then there. And that's not the agent's mistake, it just came out of the MLS that way. But I do like to normalize that data, that way everything looks consistent. Your customers and clients don't know that it just came out of the MLS that way. They think that you did it. So, not worth having them question whether or not you're detail oriented. Just normalize the data and everything then looks hunky-dory. So we have no zeros. Looks like all the data pulled out of the MLS had acreage data, or if not, this agent went out and gathered it. That's good. We're running the equation from K8 to K19. We're running the equation from K26 to K32, and we're running the equation from K39 to K48. Fantastic. We have low and we have high, low and high, low and high. The ranges are all still correct. And I'm really not seeing anything that's problematic. The row shading is correct. Oftentimes I'll see the first CMA that somebody does, and the row shading will be, they'll have done something and the shading will be funky. We have NAs in all the right blank areas. This is H10 divided by D10. Okay, and then for solds, we should be J. Okay, J divided by D. D. Okay, good. And then here we should be back to H divided by D. That's also correct. All right, yeah, this is exceptionally well done. So, very, very nice. I really don't see any errors. I had that one period next to the W, which is really a tiny mistake, and everything else looks wonderful. I don't see anything that's all capitalized. Sometimes we see agents will capitalize everything. They'll capitalize the address and the MLS, and then it comes into your CMA capitalized, and that kind of makes things funky. Can be distracting as well. Acreage sizes are consistent. We have a good, in our recent sales, they're all 5, 3.5, or 4. The square footage range is good. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 to 10 of them. The acre ranges were 0.19. A couple of these are getting to the larger side, and they're, let's see, 150, 135 a square, 162. So this one here at 145 a square, 150 a square. That's the second highest sold price per square foot, and it also is one of the largest lot. And so this is bringing that value up a little bit. I'd be curious to see. It only changes it by $1. If I take it out of the mix, it only drops it $1. And what's our low end range? 129, and it's on 0.31. So there's a good offset there. So we have some larger acreage stuff that sold for higher per square foot, but then here's, these two closing in on a third of an acre, and they're lower price per square foot sales. So I think we have a good mix here. I feel good about that. Actives, we want to make sure that the price ranges are about right. So we're 3531 times 142 equals that times that. So 500 grand is our mid-market value, and we have active competition here ranging from 480 up to 525, so that's perfect too. So yeah, not a whole lot to critique on this. Get rid of the period on that W, and I think everything else was pretty much excellent. So well done there. It is 1:30, so I'm going to call it a night. Tomorrow I'm going to be streaming the Earth video. The third revision came in. I've got to review that. And I've got to work on the video summary, or the streaming summary letter. So every month I want to send out a recapture, or a review of what the stream content was for the month before. So for those agents that don't watch the streams, they'll have a written report every month that says this is what was covered. So for those agents that are interested in watching in real time and getting updates as they happen, wonderful. If you're not one of those folks, you can still get the information in the form of the monthly summaries. So that's part of my communication plan for 2019, and I'm looking forward to continuing to roll that out. So for now, that'll be it. I'm going to go get some Z's, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. Bye-bye.